Yo, what up, Street Talks? Alright, so I've been thinking a lot about just the economy and history and stuff like that. And you know, they often say, you know, the Great Depression, stuff like that. I'm thinking, okay, what's the opposite of the Great Depression? Maybe it's the Great Joy. And I kind of like this notion. The basic notion is this. The basic notion is, in times of want, tragedy, difficulty, pain, death, and suffering, that's actually what allows us to have the greatest joy in life and existence. So you never know what you appreciate till you lose it. So like, if you ever had your wallet, right? You ever have your wallet like stolen, or you lose your wallet and you just think to yourself, wow, you know, I had extra money in there, and you know, I took my wallet for granted, blah blah. And finally you re-find it, and you're so grateful that you found it. Like, you know, you dropped it behind the couch or something. And so life is the same way too, is that now that there's actually a lot of people who are afraid of losing their lives or losing the lives of their loved ones, I think people just appreciate it more. So for example, you know, the thought of getting sick and dying or whatever, it is really a chance for us to be grateful for the health that we currently have and the life we currently have. And to me, it's one of the great joys, because if you could give me an option of living the most painful, suffering life endurance possible versus never being born, I would always choose the suffering, difficult life, because I think philosophically speaking, life is so much more beautiful and joyful and wonderful when there is actually pain and suffering involved. So for example, I think it's the difficulty, the limits in life which make it great. Like I think about this a lot. When I was a kid, you know, I was really into Time Crisis, you know, the shooting game. When you have limited money and limited lives in the game, you work so much harder at it, and it's so much more fun because there's a chance of you dying and losing everything, right? Whereas, you know, once I was able to play with unlimited credits, it was so boring because there's no stakes, there's no skin in the game. And so I think in life, actually, to have a little bit more skin in the game is what makes the game so much more enjoyable. Okay, so yo, check out how green this is. Isn't that beautiful? So I really like this word verdant, which means nice and green. Lots of nice green stuff in this park next to my house. Right, so when it comes to life in existence, I totally forgot what I was talking about. But anyways, let me try to get back on track. So it seems like in life, pain and suffering is something we're often afraid of, but yeah, just the joy of, the great joy. So the great joy of life and existence, right? So even simple pleasures and joys in life. So Cindy's been really getting into like culturing and making kefir and baking and stuff like that. It's really cool because, you know, I'm like, I don't generally eat carbs. I'm more of a meat eater, and you know, just for aesthetic purposes, I try not to eat any carbs. But Cindy's been making sourdough bread with kefir starter. So it's like a sourdough bread that has more protein in it because she made it with kefir, and you know, it's probably one of the most delicious things I've had in my life. And it's so stupid because even being able to eat such a delicious food, I'm like, wow, I'm so grateful to be alive. And you know, if I think about like Mr. Rogers, you know, Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, Fred Rogers vibes, you know, isn't it such a wonderful joy to be alive? You know, I think a lot about when I was a kid, and I think one of the things that we lost as adults is being able to enjoy and be grateful for nature. And spending a lot of time in nature or near like green stuff, I think, I don't know, I think it's good for the soul. And you know, even for us, like, one of the great human joys that I personally have is the opportunity to think, to explore, to create art, and to challenge myself. And it's really one of the great joys in life that, you know, even with all these new technologies, like right now in 2020, so before COVID happened, I was philosophizing on like we're essentially living in this crazy Tron-like future. It's year 2020, motherfucking, we got the internet and all these crazy virtual reality shits. And so I'm thinking, man, okay, beyond thinking about whether you're gonna live or die because of the coronavirus, think, wow, you know, we have access to all these crazy epic technologies and virtual realities, you know, the Oculus Rift, the Oculus Quest, augmented reality, you know, Pokemon Go, whatever you want to call it. And so, and you know, even me, one of the greatest joys that I've been personally having is, I remember when I started YouTube almost a decade ago. That's crazy. I'm 32 now, and I started my YouTube when I was like 21, 22. Like, the technology is so much better. You know, kind of like this. That'll make a nice photograph. Or even that. So I'm so grateful now because so right now I'm recording this on a Lumix G9 camera, and I have a Rode video mic with a Windjammer on top. I'm just shooting 4K 60 FPS intelligent auto mode. Is essentially auto mode, and I have a Leica Lumix 12mm 1.4 lens, which is effectively a 24mm full frame lens. And to me it's great because, like, in the past I was never really able to vlog in the streets like this. Like, you know, I think I'm the first street vlogger, and now it's great because I have the technology to actually do this, and this wouldn't have been possible for me in the past with my OG GoPro. And so even the technologies that exist right now has empowered us creators to a new level. And so rather than taking it for granted, I'm really going to milk it for all it's worth. And so yeah, like, even the excitement of seeing all these new technologies is going to be created even in the midst of all this. The great thing is Apple is still innovating and creating all these new creative tools for us to play with and wander and stuff like that. And so I see so many new futures available for us as creators, artists, visual artists. Like, even the iPad, I think the iPad was the apex of Steve Jobs' vision. And like, even simple things I've been able to do ever since that team created Procreate. Now I could create illustrations. It's something I wasn't never able to do before. Or, you know, ZenBrush 2, now I could do calligraphy with my fingers. And even upgrades in blogging software, WordPress.org. There's so many new things and functions I could do to express my creative ends. And now even in my apartment, my Wi-Fi is stupid fast, so I could, you know, shoot a 5 GB video on this camera, and I could upload it in like 2 minutes. So yeah, just know that we're currently in a brave new world of entrepreneurship. There's more opportunities than not, and just have the great hope and the great joy of being alive, because people might think that we're living through another Great Depression. I think that we're living through the great joy.